All right, guys, welcome to an episode of Close and Conquer. Got a very, very special guest and a very special site. Got my buddy Coach Herman on. How you doing, bud?
Doing great, man. Appreciate you having me. This is awesome.
Well, appreciate it. We get to use your office,
Yeah.
which is now going to be our new mobile podcast. I'm just kidding. It's
No,
great,
hey, anytime.
But it's
anytime.
a great place. And I want to give you a real quick kind of overview because you're on a lot of different things. And this podcast, a lot of the folks that watch this, we do have a lot of athletes, former athletes, businessmen, businesswomen.
My kind of people.
Your kind of people. And I want to give you an update. I want to let you roll a little bit. But we met 4 months ago, 3 months ago, somewhere in that ballpark.
It feels a lot longer, but
It
yeah,
does.
when you say that, yeah, but not very long, not less than a half a year. Yeah.
So to give you the backdrop, I had Chris Carter on a podcast. Chris Carter and I knew somebody in common. He was like, hey, you should have him on your podcast. My buddy Andrew was there. We're getting ready for the podcast. I am never late to anything. And I mean fucking never. So if you tell me to be there, I'm not there. I'm dead. Okay?
I'm late. I'm
I'm
late.
not.
Yeah, I know.
Well, yeah, I'm just
I know.
telling you. So and if I get kidnapped, I'm gonna get out of there still. So I mean, so I'm you know what I mean. And Chris, you all had a million things on, and Chris is great. So he shoots, and I don't know Chris, you know.
Yeah.
He shoots a text. I shoot him a text like, dude, the podcast was at 1, like 20-some minutes ago. And he shoots me a text back, and we start going back and forth. But as soon as he walked in, I'm like, dude's got really good energy, you know, just a really good human being. I really liked him a lot. And we're in the middle of the podcast, and he says, you need to meet Coach Herman. And I said, okay, sounds good. And I said, why? And he said, he's a very special person. And I said, okay. He said, I'm his biggest fan in the entire building, which I don't know if that's true or not. He said, I'm his biggest fan in the entire building. Not that he doesn't have a lot of fans. And then he said, you need to be part of the FAU program. And immediately I was like, I want to be part of it. I didn't know why. I do have a deep faith. I don't think things happen by accident.
I don't either.
I think that he and I met, because I could have easily been like, he's late, I'm not going to do it. He could have not done it. Like, we were both we could easily just kind of blow each other off. That had been fine. And then, we built a professional relationship, friendship. But you and I sat in here, and we started talking. You said, man, I'm excited to, like, work with you, but I'm also excited to have, like, you're a learner. You're a student. Yeah. And you're like, I want to have friends. And I'm like, well, good, me too. I work my ass off and I don't have as many friends as you think I do. And but I'd love for you to start, because we haven't had – This is the first legit Division I football coach we've had on here. Legit.
You've had illegitimate ones.
We've had, hey, if you were on here before and you're not, I'm not mad. I don't know if you're an illegitimate coach, but you ain't a coach of some of the programs my man's been involved in. But you played the game, and I like to know people's story.
Yeah.
Right, how they got there. So if you don't mind, welcome to the show. Kind of share with us your journey, like your upbringing, and how it got you to, because when you start walking out in the field in front of 100,000 people, and you the dude in charge, that's pretty legit.
Yeah, it's really cool, but when you're reminded of it, sometimes it gets a little heavy. Yeah. My story, I am an unbelievable testament. Like, I'm a therapist's dream, right? So I'm the only child of a single mom.
Wow.
My real dad, when he was sober, he tried. When he wasn't, I didn't really have much interaction with him. He died in a homeless shelter when he was 52 years old.
How old were you?
I was in my early 20s.
God.
Had just gotten married. My wife and I, who's still my wife, believe it or not.
Good for you.
After going through all that, we even talked about moving him into my house.
Really?
And that's a whole nother
So
podcast.
your dad wasn't there growing up.
In and out. Let's put it that way. He was there. I have really good memories of my dad, and I have really bad ones or non-existent for years. So kind of up and down. So basically, only child.
And your mom never remarried, never had any more kids.
She remarried a guy that lasted not very long. He wasn't really good to her.
My mom did that too.
Yeah.
From one another, you're like, well, what are you trying?
I tell you, you want to talk about a helpless feeling. Go watch your mom get beat up when you're 10 years old, and I've been there. You can't do anything about it. So fell in love with football. I wasn't real good. Division III non-scholarship player. I tell people I was so bad at the game I had to pay a university $30,000 a year just to play it. But I fell in love with it, and I go back to the therapist part, because coaches were my dads, my teammates were my brothers, you know, and I never wanted to leave the locker room. You know, that was home. It was just safe, you know, and these men in my life taught me how to tie my tie. You know, my mom worked her tail. We weren't poor, but she worked her ass off to make sure we weren't. Two jobs at time. She was a saleswoman for at the time AT&T, and actually we graduated college within a year from each other because she went back to school because all these management positions that she was kind of in line for, she wasn't getting because she didn't have her degree. She started at 19 years old plugging lines in as an operator at Cincinnati Bell. And anyways, so watched her work ethic and her take care of me, and kind of got my male influences from my coaches. And like I said, I have 2 undergraduate degrees and a master's degree, and none of them have anything to do with football. And but I knew I had to, if I was going to do this, I was going to have to do it young, you know, because there's no money. I didn't make $30,000 till I was 31 years old.
So where was your first coaching job?
My first coaching job was at Division III Texas Lutheran University in Seguin, Texas for $5,000 a year. I had 2 undergraduate degrees when I took that job, but I got 2 meals a day at the cafeteria. I got a little meal card that I could swipe. That was a big bonus. So my wife was my sugar mama for a while.
You were with her then?
Yeah, she was living in California. Wow. Living in Manhattan Beach, working in downtown LA in the finance sector, if you will, and quite honestly, sending me rent money every month, you know. And
but you loved the game that much.
I did, but I will tell you, Sean, I also knew that I had a responsibility to her and eventually my children. And I said, I love this game so. I mean, I made it a career, right? Yeah. But I also knew that, and this is not to disparage anybody that's in this situation, but I didn't want to be 45 years old, coaching Division II football, making $40,000 a year,
not be able to take
and
care of your
teaching swimming and diving in the spring, you know, to a bunch of college students. Like I owe my family more. To me, that would be putting the game in front of my family, where I felt like. So I set tangible goals. I said, if I am not a FCS, we called it 1AA at the time, FCS coordinator or FBS position coach by the time I'm 30, we're moving back to California. We'll go chase her dreams, and I'll go sell widgets or do whatever. Okay. And we go 11-4. I'm the wide receivers coach, special teams coordinator at Sam Houston State. So I'm not a coordinator at FCS. I'm a position coach at FCS. Well, I guess I'm special teams coordinator. I meant offensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator. And we go 11-4. The head coach has been there 24 years. He retires, and they bring in a new guy, cleans us out. So we win 11 games, and I don't have a job, and I'm 29 and a half. This is December of 2004, and I got a lifeline. Never coached quarterbacks. Never called a play a day in my life, and our rival Texas State had a offensive coordinator, quarterback job open, and I had a guy on staff that had worked with me prior. He recommended me, thank God, and I got the job, thank God, and we won 11 games at that school that year, set all kinds of records on offense, and kind of the rest is history from there.
All right, so you're wide receiver. What position did you play in college?
Receiver.
That's the other thing. I like humble people. You played receiver. You never played quarterback?
Not once.
Okay, never played quarterback. Never called a play?
Prior to 2005, no.
Take the job. What did you have to figure out about quarterback? I mean, you knew what you knew, but what was, like, y'all won 11 games. You did well, I'm assuming. They liked you.
Here's what I found out, and I love that you brought that up, the humility. I walked in, I'm whatever I was, 29. This QB is that I'm about to coach. He's going into his 5th year, senior, starter, freak of a player, ceiling off the charts. Poor man's Vince Young, if you will.
Okay.
And I went in and I said, this guy's going to smell bullshit from a mile away. He's had 1,000 quarterbacks coaches. He's played 1,000, literally 1,000 college football game snaps. So I walked in and I said, I'm going to learn this with you. Like, I have some things that I have from my knowledge of being around some great quarterback coaches, of researching it myself, of formulating my own thoughts and opinions. I said, I've never stood back there and taken a snap in my life as a player, certainly not as a coach. So I don't know what you see, and I've certainly never had your brain. So not only do I not know what you see, I don't know how you perceive what you see. So this is going to have to be a really big time, like, give and take, open book. Like, I know some things. Correct. I don't know everything. Correct. You know a lot from experience. You don't have my research acumen, if you will. Correct. You have practical. Yeah. I have research. Let's bring the two together. And he really, Barrick Neely is his name. Barrick's coaching running backs, I believe, at Texas State, back at his alma mater now. And he's like a son to me to this day. And I think he's the best thing that's ever happened in my career. If I'd have shown up to Texas State and they didn't have Barrick Neely playing quarterback, who knows where my career would have been. Because I always say that too. We get, and you want to call it humility, I call it reality. Like, I was coaching at Iowa State for 3 years. I was the offense coordinator. And if you know Iowa State, you know they don't get the best recruits, and it's a developmental program, yes. Right? And so we were 50th in the country in total offense, not in the top 25 really in any category. And Urban Meyer gets the Ohio State job, and I think to the point that he gets the Ohio State job, he calls me. One, I was surprised, like, our numbers.
Did you know him at all?
Never shook his hand a day in my life. But he knew how hard Iowa State was and what we were doing there. But I also think to the point, like, I went from coaching who I was coaching at Ohio State to then coaching Braxton Miller, the 2-time player of the year in the Big Ten that broke all of Drew Brees' records. And we put up really good numbers at Ohio State. Well, I'm the same coach. I didn't take smart pills when I got hired by Ohio State. I started coaching really, really good players, better players.
Were you the quarterbacks coach there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The quarterback coach Iowa State.
Yes.
Then Urban Meyer calls you.
Correct. Yep.
Says, come on over. You're like, hell yeah.
Correct.
Can't even believe you know who I am.
Correct.
Because he's Urban Meyer.
Yes.
From a monetary standpoint, are you making enough money to take care of your family?
Oh, at that time.
So
yes.
Life's okay. Yeah. You got your wife. You're doing your thing. When you first met Urban Meyer, how was that? First time you ever shook his hand, met him?
Interesting. I'm not ashamed to say, philosophically, there so much of what our program, what we believe, I learned from him. I mean, it was really, really a great 3 years from a organizational standpoint. I have a funny story. I don't even know if he knows this is true or not. So I don't know if I've ever told this story either, but I'm proud of it. So I get the call. He says, I want to bring you in on an interview. Well, he never really says what the job is, right? He's new. He hadn't hired anybody on staff, so there's nobody with any title. Right. So I go in, and, I mean, it's a motherfucker of an interview. I mean, it's here's our playbook. Here's empty protection. I got a bunch of shit I got to do. I'll be back in 3 hours, and you teach me how we do empty protection.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of that. And so at the end of the interview, because I had gotten permission from my boss at Iowa State, begrudgingly, he's like, your ass goes there and you need to be back on the road by tomorrow afternoon, recruiting, right? And so Urban was going to leave it as, he said, this is great. I want to hire you on my staff. I said, as what?
Correct.
He said, I don't know yet. But I do know I want you on my staff. You know, I got to figure out, is it quarterbacks, receivers, coordinator? I said, Coach, no offense, but I got a quarterback play calling job waiting for me in Ames, Iowa, and a guy I really don't want to piss off because it sounds like that's only one of those jobs I got.
Correct.
And that's the job I want. And then it was some more hemming and hawing. I said, Coach, everything I've heard and everything I've read about you tells me you're a man that goes with his gut. And your gut is telling me, or telling you, that I should be your offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. And I swear to God, the pause felt like 7 minutes, but it was probably 10 seconds. And you call your boss at Iowa State and you tell him you're the offensive coordinator at Ohio State.
No shit.
And I had never read anything about him or heard anything about him, but I knew there was dude, I fucking nailed this.
That's right.
I nailed this interview a
better
day
than
and a half, and nobody's going to do better. You're an idiot. Basically, I was saying you're an idiot if you don't hire me. And he did. And it was good for all of us.
No doubt. Not good for Iowa State, but good for everybody else.
Yeah. The only one in that deal was that
everybody
wasn't
can't
real
win
good.
always.
That's true.
So you take the job of Coach Meyer, offensive coordinator for 3 years.
Yes.
And then what happens from there?
I had the opportunity to be the head coach at University of Houston. Did some unbelievable things there. Went 13-1 in year one. I think it was Larry Coker at Miami. Only two coaches in college football history to start their careers 10-0.
So, how many years at Texas?
4.
What was the biggest thing you learned at Texas that you're
Fit
taking?
matters. Fit of personality of the leader and the decision makers.
That part matters.
Matters.
Players or just coaches and staff? You're talking about not players. Talking about just
that matters for sure.
But I'm saying what you're talking about right now.
I was talking about what I learned from a job standpoint is that personality, fit, goals, alignment.
Yeah.
All of that matters, even at those jobs.
Okay. And then listen, you weren't making $5,000 a year anymore. You made quite a bit of money.
Yes.
Fair. You made quite a bit of money coaching.
Yeah.
More than you probably ever thought you'd.
Ever.
Like it's
ever.
Yeah.
Like I didn't get in this for the money.
Well, that's been a good byproduct because you made quite a bit of money.
Yes.
You were out of coaching for how long?
1 year with the Bears, but I didn't want to. That was more as consultant. I mean, if you want to, I went to work every day for an NFL football team, but I didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah.
I've been out of college football coaching 2 years.
Got it. And had you contemplated not coaching again? You didn't need the money.
I don't know that I planned anything.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to see what the NFL was like. I'd never done nothing but college.
What did you think about the NFL?
I loved it. I mean, you want to talk about the quality of life those coaches have?
Yeah.
I mean, I showed up and we're working 8 to 4, Monday through Thursday, every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. I had 2 weeks off for spring break. My phone never rang. Had 5 weeks off in the summer.
How was your coaching schedule?
It's fine. I mean, same as college. That's the thing. Those guys want to pound their chest and say, well, we work until our season's so much longer. Well, you think I'm just sitting at home twiddling my thumbs during January? Like I'm on the road recruiting. I'm in a different living room every night in January. So it's just a different world, There's no recruiting it's a job. It doesn't consume your life. When you walk out the building, you're not calling a recruit. You're not calling a kid's parent.
Players aren't calling you if they got a problem. They're grown ass. They got other people they're calling.
It's a job. You go in, punch your clock, and leave.
Yeah.
And there was a lot to be envious of that life, but a lot. I got into college and stayed in college football because I love the relationship with young men at this age, and there's just not a whole lot of relationships.
It's transactional.
Correct, very transactional. Yes,
they're also reporting to their job.
Correct.
You're reporting to your job.
Yep.
Your paths cross.
Yep. There you go.
They go home.
Exactly.
But you're a big relationship guy.
Yes, very much.
So you decide I'm going to get back into coaching, get some opportunities. Why did you pick FAU?
That's another funny story. So I told Michelle the broadcasting thing, being that close, going in on a Friday to the pre-production meetings, you're meeting all these coaches, and it was good and bad. I got to see what the broadcasting side did, but so Michelle and I, we had some talks, and she said, okay, if we're going to do this, the job has to check 2 boxes. Your family has to be happy living there because you're about to move a 16-year-old boy and a 10-year-old boy.
Yeah, good luck.
And you got to be able to win championships. And there were bigger jobs that called that.
That was from, who said that?
My wife.
Your wife. I know, but your wife said, I get the family part. Then
Championship.
she said,
oh, yeah.
Really?
That's
badass.
She gives a shit.
I get, but I've not heard
her
that.
life's a lot better when we. No, but she's competitive too.
Understood.
I mean, she's got the same last name as me, and when that last name does well, she does well, and when that last name doesn't do well, she doesn't do well.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
So to the box, this FAU checked the 2 boxes.
Yeah, and there what I was getting at, that's a harder combination to find in college football. Think of all the first 5 championship teams you can think of and where they're located.
Yeah, I ain't moving there.
Now think of all the top 5 destinations in this country.
I ain't leaving Boca Raton.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and now do they have a championship? No. So to be able to find this at this stage in its development, this program is only 20. They just started playing football 22 years ago. It just moved into that stadium, whatever it is, a decade ago. Like, we're still a very young program, but to have these facilities already and to have this fertile of a recruiting base and to have administration with a vision, I think was it was the job that checked both boxes most emphatically. Which was nice, too, to be able to go into a job search and not worry about prestige or money when deciding on the job.
Yeah.
All I was worried about were those 2 boxes.
Probably nice for them, too, when it was the right fit.
Yeah,
you're worried about those 2 boxes.
Those 2 boxes.
They
that was
it.
it.
Give up their prestige.
That was
their
it.
Whole...
Yeah.
So, and I know FAU's very happy to have you. I live up the street. I'm very happy to have you. I told... when I met Chris, he's like, you been to a game? And I was like, I've been to a basketball game, been to a baseball game, been to a football game. And he's like, that'll change. I was like, 100%. And I'll be at all of them now.
I know you will.
I know. Believe me.
Well,
but I want to ask you a quiz. This is me, just me as a fan watching. I don't know what day it was, but I was listening to Nick Saban after he left. It was actually just a clip that ESPN put on. And he said, basically what he was saying in the clip was, my wife and I were talking, and I said to her, we said to each other, the only 2 things these kids are asking about is playing time and how much I'm going to get paid. And I said to myself, as a businessman, well, hey, listen, Coach Saban, welcome to the real motherfucking world. Everybody wants to know how much playing time they're getting and how much they're getting paid. But listen, God bless me, Alabama, unbelievable. NIL's, we have a different... There's whole things changed, right? For you as a head coach, recruiting, building, doing what you're doing, because just not too long ago, that didn't come into the conversation.
No, I mean,
we obviously never came.
I mean, within the 2 years I was out of college football is when it started. Yeah, exactly.
But you're watching.
I feel like the guy in Airplane, the movie. Like, I picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue. Right? I picked the wrong year to get back into college football.
But that being said, walk us through your thought process. Like, when you saw it, what'd you first think when you heard this was when it happened? When they were like, this is going to happen. This is now the policy change. NCAA came down. What did you first think?
It's about time. And this is going to be a fucking mess.
Okay.
It's
so
about,
you were like, about time. Like, I get it. It's about time this happened.
Bro, that same guy, Braxton Miller, still close to this day. I remember at Ohio State, he was accepting an award somewhere, and long story short, some donor emails the athletic director saying, hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but when Braxton Miller was accepting this award, he had a $750 Louis Vuitton belt on. You might want to find out how he, blah, blah, blah.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah.
Seriously.
So I get called into the office with Braxton. He tells the AD, it's a $50 knockoff that I got from my brother. So I'm pissed. I go to ncaa.org with him over my shoulder. I go to their fan shop, and there you see, they're not even supposed to do this. On the NCAA's website, it said Braxton Miller, his name, not supposed to do that. Number 5 Ohio State jersey, $150.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he's going to get hemmed up for wearing a knockoff Louis Vuitton belt for accepting an award.
Yep. This was a booster at Ohio State?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What was his fucking rationale? Just to be an asshole?
It's against
like
the
I
rules.
just woke up one day.
Like, how does that kid that must be a donor paying him under the table? Or I don't know.
Wow.
Mind your business, right?
Yeah, no shit.
So I've always been a big fan of sticking it to the man. You know, like you're going to keep these players down and have this. You're going to make all these millions of dollars off of it. So I'm glad we're finally doing it.
Yeah.
The way we're doing it is asinine.
Okay.
Because the government said, well, you have to give these kids the right to their NIL. Mm-hmm. Okay. So inevitably, what does that lead to? Whoever pays the most gets the best players. Mm-hmm. Because there's no salary cap. Like, what we have done is we have entered a model. Like, I always look at the NFL.
Yep.
32 billionaires own 31. The Packers are publicly traded.
Correct.
Own those teams. And if Roger Goodell went to them, hey guys, we're going to change the rules up a little bit. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have 85 guy rosters. Mm-hmm. There's going to be no salary cap.
Pay them whatever you want.
Pay them whatever you want. And they can leave every 6 months. Okay? And you're not going to know how much the other guy is paying him. So whatever he tells you his contract is or his offered contract is, you just got to have
to assume.
Yeah, you got to believe him.
But if he lies, you can never prove it.
Correct. They'd laugh at you it would take them 30 minutes to finish laughing.
Correct.
But that's what we're in right now. We have an unregulated, non-transparent, non-capped salary pool, and we have a workforce that can leave with no consequences every 6 months. Mm-hmm. Good luck.
So how do you navigate it?
Well, you.
That definitely helps.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm in.
Pounding the pavement. I mean, there's a legitimate way of going about things. Say like, you got to do business the way business is done. We're not going to win a game sitting here wagging our finger at the system or whatever. Like, it is what it is. We got to figure it out. So one, we've been pounding the pavement, trying to get donations as best we can this off season. I think managing the roster becomes you've got to be okay with change. Our roster changed 44% from this time last year. So who knows, even from when we showed up a year and a half ago, there's probably only 10 guys on this team that even played football for FAU in 2022. And so you've got to be comfortable in that ever-changing dynamic. But I think you've got to prioritize, too, what's important. And you've got to be comfortable knowing you're probably not going to have – your depth is going to be all young guys. Mm-hmm. Because if a junior or senior is a 2 or a 3, he's going to find somewhere where he can go be a 1. Mm-hmm. Whether that's down a division, down 2 divisions, whatever, he can. Mm-hmm. He can go in 6 months.
Correct. And
so that's probably the biggest thing. Your roster is always changing, and your depth now is nothing but young guys,
So, and again, I think in business, which it's a business, whenever you get to, I always used to say to my son, he'd be like, I really don't like my classes. And I'm like, I didn't ask you for your classes. You know what I mean? But I'm like, pay attention to history, because history repeats itself.
Always.
And if you pay attention, you'll know what you're going to be dealing with again in the future. So if you have a good handle on history, you'll have a good handle in the future. You probably ain't going to use trigonometry. Like, you're good, I get it. You're not a biologist, but that's important. And when you look in history, dictators always get overthrown. They just do eventually. People get mad and they go, we're all going to rush. The front guys are going to get shot. Yeah. We're all going anyway.
I know.
Because our life we ain't good right now. You know what I mean? And I can tell you, I was in the police academy and I was like 20 and we had this ethics class. And this guy stood up, and he's like, I got and he had never been a cop, you could tell. And he's like, I have a scenario for you. You're driving down the street, and you pull over a car at 2 o'clock in the morning, and these two guys, and they run. And somebody can't catch them. And I'm like, dude, I'd catch them. But I was 20. I'd catch them now. I'd be like, yo, they ran away. They're running pretty fast. You got to catch them. And there's $100,000 in cash in the trunk. And he's like, I want to know which one of you or how many of you would consider keeping that money. And I was like, fuck, these guys are all liars.
Right.
Because
I would consider it. You said
no,
consider.
Consider it. And that's what I said. And he said, why would you consider it? I said, well, I'm human. The time, I'm human. But I was making $29,000 a year. If we take it don't go to nothing good anyway. Like, somebody gets it anyway. Right. The town don't get it, taxpayers, somebody's getting it, ain't me. And I'm thinking, shit, I'm going to have some kids one day. I make $29,000 a year. And he goes, well, at least you were thinking. I said, let me be clear. I probably would fucking take it. So I'm like, if you're thinking I'm actually taking it from guys that ran away. They didn't they ain't running to the bank at 2 o'clock in the morning. They ran from their fucking car. So They're not getting arrested. Good for them. I ain't fast enough to catch them. I get $100,000. They can't tell on me. So when I say thinking, motherfucker, I'm probably doing it. and I'll never forget later, the guy came up to me, he said, he's like, I appreciate your candor. I said, yeah. He says, do you think this is the industry for you, or the whatever you want to say, the occupation for you? And I said, well, I took the job because my buddy dared me to take the physical test. I wasn't it's not like I was all my life, but I remember he said to me, this isn't the job to do if you're not passionate about it. And I was like, he goes, that's how people get hurt. Mm. And he's like, and also you're probably a little too overzealous, because whenever we'd be grappling, wrestling, I'm like, dude, I just shoot him.
Right.
I remember the guy
why are we doing this?
Why are we doing this? He had a knife. He was 12 feet from me, and I was like, we'd have these rubber bullets. I just took him out, just bucking. They're like, why'd you shoot him? I'm like, I can throw a knife from 12 feet and hit you. I can throw a baseball through a brick wall. I don't want to get killed,
Right.
And I say all that to say that, it was really asinine, in my opinion, to expect kids to live on ramen noodles and not be able to have enough money to live
especially when you're walking by offices like this and the ADs and everybody's driving gold
correct.
Mercedes Benzes and
you see what the NCAA
and they're eating ramen. Yeah,
correct. So you I'm almost blown away. I'm really impressed, by the way, that guys that were at these big schools and made all this money at the universities just kept their head down. Because I'm letting you know, if I had to take $100,000 from a drug dealer, I'd have been like, how much do I get from my mom? Right. Okay, my mom. I'm doing that for my mom. Yeah. My mom get a car. I'm sorry, I would. So I agree with you. I think it's about time. And again, regulate. Problem when something's not regulated, eventually it becomes regulated. And when it becomes regulated, it's usually so. You got to be planful for that. All right. So when you look at what has been your favorite, and this is I see on my mind, the person that you worked with or coached with that taught you the most at any level, could be anywhere, that to you, to Tom, made the biggest impact on your life.
Greg Davis, who was the offense coordinator at Texas when I was just a 23-year-old graduate assistant, and Ron Randleman, the head coach at Sam Houston, that gave me my first full-time job coaching receivers.
What made them special?
Greg, Coach Davis, and I don't even know how old Coach D is now, but I'm 50, and I call him Coach D, and he still calls me Young Tom.
That's right. So he's older than you.
Yeah, he's older than me. So I'm Young Tom, and he's Coach D.
Yeah.
But Coach D taught me football and was really patient with me. It's just maybe more wise than even smart. just kind of knew. Like I remember, this was back in the day. You had a graduate assistant on offense and a graduate assistant on defense, and we made like what the players made, a $400 a month stipend living in Austin, Texas.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it. And so my job was to help the offensive line coach. That was the position with the most numbers on offense. So let's throw the extra coach there. And so I remember going to Coach Davis, who's the offense coordinator, kind of my boss, right? After my first season, saying like, Coach, I'm a wide-out guy.
Yeah,
like I want to coach quarterbacks.
What do I know about linemen?
This is not. And he goes, 1, we need you there, so you're staying there. And 2, you need to be there because everything starts up front. Great, you can drop 1,000 routes to get guys open. How are you going to protect the quarterback, and how are you going to run the football? And he said, you'll thank me someday, and I'll never forget, like, I meet some guys now that do call plays and coach quarterbacks that haven't had that O-line experience, and you start talking the run game with them, and it's like, I'm like, wow, you're calling plays? Yeah. And you need help in a certain area. That was weird. So he really taught me the game, kind of taught me professionalism, I would think, too. Some would say he didn't do a very good job of that. And then Ron Randleman, it was my first full-time job. And maybe it's just one quote, 4 years, but the one that always sticks out to me, he was very wise man himself, and was very patient with me as a young coach. I know I screwed 1,000 things up, and he let me screw them up and fix them. But I was really struggling connecting as a new coach coming in. Here's this receiver that led the team last year. It's supposed to be really good again this year. Probably the best player on the team. And I got to go coach him. He's a fifth-year guy, and he's kind of an asshole, And so I'm coaching him for a while and not really trying to get serious with Coach Randleman. But I remember saying, Coach, I'm struggling connecting with this guy. And I don't know. It's my first full-time job. You got any advice? And he goes, just remember, 99% of the players you coach aren't going to love football as much as you do and aren't as smart as you. And you need to find a way to communicate to them and not just intellectually, but even their passion for the game. Like, they don't see the game the way you do. Right. They don't. This is just something they're doing to get through college, and then if they get a shot at the pros, great, and they're going to go do a million other things. Like, you're a coach because you got bit by this bug, you got addicted to it. Like, they're not addicted to it.
By the bug.
They're not bit by the bug. They're just checking boxes. They're compliant, and that resonated with me. Like, I gotta tap into something in this kid to make him show up every day feeling about this game the way I do, and that was a fun challenge.
So, well, first of all, there's a lot of knowledge in everything you said. You had a lot of depth, and I appreciate you getting on. Not that I didn't think you did. You really, really do. But the stories and the grind and how many people just stop short.
Oh.
Like how, because, again, I think what I'm always inspired by is when somebody gives me a story or talks about their life and they've had success, but they're like, but here's everything I went through. Now, I say to people all the time, could anybody be a successful entrepreneur? Yes. Now, do I think that anybody could be a successful football coach? No. And here's why. I never had a desire to coach. And the reason I never had a desire to coach is I never, ever, like, even in college when I was playing baseball, I never thought, like, coaching, my kids growing up.
Right, yeah.
But once, like, when they got to high school, and I had to coach high school, like, I hated it. And I hated it because I had zero passion for anything but some, like, when the game's moving, dude, I ain't paying attention at all. Right. Like, I played football, baseball, basketball. I couldn't know less on some of it. Like, when you play, I'm like, I don't, but, like, how did that? I knew my job.
Correct.
You told me my job.
That's what these kids, you were this kid.
I know my job, and I'm good at my job.
Yeah.
My job. But, and I love hitting. I love my teammates. I love everything you said. My coaches were my dads. My brothers were my teammates, all that. But I think that anybody could go coach somewhere on some level. Sure.
Yeah.
You need some extra bodies if you want to make no money and grind
Sure.
and eat ramen noodles yourself. But you've become one of the, I mean, listen, you've had unbelievable success, which is a testament to who you are and what you build. I have no doubt you're going to have unbelievable success here. I'm really happy to have met you, be part of it. And I'm happy to call you a friend.
Me too.
And I mean that. And I'm really, really, really excited about this year for y'all. Who calls the plays here?
Charlie Fry, our offense, with some suggestions from me.
Suggestions for you. Well, that's got to be hard too, right? You've always called.
I did until I became a head coach, and I knew that the job of head coach required. So I wouldn't be the best offensive coordinator I could be if I were calling plays and trying to be the head coach, and I couldn't be the best head coach I could be if I was trying to be the head coach but also call plays. So, but I have 2 years at Texas. I called plays, or two of our better years. It was just really hard for me. One, on the sideline, seeing the game. I've always called plays from the press box, so that's just kind of how I knew the game on game day. And then just the time management during the week. There's just so much. You got press conferences and you got to worry about the defense. And it's like, I mean, I was on my iPad till 3 a.m. in bed, just trying to get.
I don't know how y'all do it.
Yeah.
I went one day by accident to meeting with Coach Fry for like 45 minutes. My head fucking blew up, and I was like, "What the fuck's going on?"
It's
here?
a lot.
It's a lot. Players, and then ask him, and I'm like, "Dude, what is going on in here?" I'm like, "I played this game. It doesn't even look like the game I played."
Doesn't even look like the game you played.
I'm like, "What the hell is going on over here?" I'm like, I'm in the wrong room. So I
thought this was a football room.
Where are we at? This is a different sport. It's like hurling or something. I'm in a different country. But it's well, listen, I wish you nothing but the best. I can't wait to be along for the ride and see what you do.
Thanks, Sean. You've been the best, man, and this is just the beginning, man.
No doubt about it, brother. Appreciate you jumping on. Guys, thanks for joining Closing Cock. I'm telling you, a lot of lessons and what Coach talked about today, and I like real life, transparent lessons where it's like if you do these things in your life, because that's what we should be doing. Getting somewhere is like, okay, did you bring anybody with you? Did the knowledge bring anybody with you? Did you pour out and did you help other people have a better life? So appreciate you jumping on. Like, subscribe, share, send it to people. Come FAU, come check them out. You want to help out, come find them, hit me up. I'll help you out. I'll get you all connected, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks, Coach.